You're standing behind a convenience store at 6 in the morning, key in a metal panel, counting cash out of a machine nobody thinks about twice. Your phone buzzes. It's Tyler, already sending a photo of the SUV he leased an hour ago. Message underneath it. Guess what I just got approved for? What Tyler doesn't know is what you've started calling the quiet position, the exact opposite of everything he's leasing and posting about. Somewhere between that machine and tonight, the number sitting behind it crossed a line that would change how everyone around you treats you. That's precisely why nobody is ever going to find out. Stay for this, because by the time we get to the email that finally puts a number on all of it, you'll understand exactly why the people who actually have money are the last people you'd ever suspect. 11 years ago, none of this existed. You were working nights at a regional distribution warehouse, and the closest thing you had to a financial plan was hoping for a raise in the spring. Then a coworker mentioned, almost as a joke, that the gas station down the road paid someone close to $40 a month just to keep their cash machine stocked and running. You looked into it that same weekend. It took less than an hour of searching to learn that one well-placed cash machine, after processing fees and the cost of loading it, could clear somewhere between $50 and $140 a month. Not enough to notice, enough to test. You bought your first one used for $1,100, a little scratched down one side, and placed it in the back hallway of a bar that did steady weekend traffic. The first month it processed enough transactions to clear $162 after every fee. $162. Your cousin's signing bonus that spring could have covered 4 years of that machine's earnings without blinking. Nobody congratulated you. Nobody knew there was anything to congratulate. You sat with that number on a Sunday night and felt something that wasn't quite pride and wasn't quite disappointment. Something quieter than either one. You didn't stay with it because you were staring at the $162. You stayed because of what the number proved. The machine didn't care whether you showed up. It sat in a hallway, did its job for strangers who needed cash for a tab, and paid you every single time, whether you were watching or not. So you placed a second one, then a third. If you're the kind of person who actually tracks the boring stuff instead of scrolling past it, a follow means the next breakdown doesn't slip by you, because it gets a lot more specific from here. Somewhere around the sixth machine, you started looking at self-storage facilities the same way, not as someone who needed a unit for old furniture, but as someone trying to understand who actually owned the dirt underneath all those roll-up doors. You found a small facility outside town, 42 units, barely half occupied, run by an owner who was tired and ready to be finished with it. You paid $93,000 for the whole property. Nothing about it was impressive. Some rust on the doors, a gravel lot that flooded when it rained hard. The first year it netted $31,000. You didn't celebrate. You used it as the down payment on the next one. This is the part nobody sees. Not the scaling, not the spreadsheet, not 11 years of quiet decisions stacked on top of each other. Just a person doing math at a kitchen table on a Tuesday night. A cash machine that turned into a question, that turned into a facility, that turned into something nobody around you has a word for yet. Your accountant's name is Denise. She has been doing books for small operators for over 20 years. She has seen messy partnerships, sloppy LLCs, and one client who kept receipts in a shoebox for a decade. She does not impress easily. She sits across from you at a folding table in the back office of your second storage facility, and you hand her a single folder with everything you currently own listed inside it. She reads it slowly. Then she looks up and says, "This is the least exciting balance sheet she has reviewed in 20 years, and she means it as the nicest thing she can say about it. You take it as the highest compliment you have ever received, because that is exactly what you have spent 11 years building. Not a brand, not a story anyone would repost, just a quiet collection of assets that solve small, unglamorous problems and generate cash every single month, whether anyone is watching or not." Here is what the folder says. 54 cash machines spread across 3 counties, pulling in close to $210,000 a year combined, after every fee and every service run. 2 self-storage facilities, 109 units total, netting somewhere around $98,000 a year after taxes, insurance, and a part-time manager who handles the gate code and the occasional lock cut. 4 billboard parcels along 2 state highways where you don't own a single advertisement, only the land underneath them, leased out on contracts running 8 to 15 years with built-in yearly increases. Together they bring in close to $60,000 a year in ground rent, and some months you genuinely forget you own them. And then there is the commercial power washing company you bought 3 years ago from a retiring owner named Walt, who built it over almost 30 years into something that mostly ran itself. 9 contracted clients, strip malls, 2 school districts, and a regional grocery chain. A little over $900,000 a year in revenue, thin margins, but the kind of business that loses a client slowly and replaces it slowly and never once makes anybody's headline. This is the accounting, the part nobody photographs. Denise asks if you're planning to pivot into anything more exciting eventually, maybe some multifamily real estate, something with real upside. You tell her no. She nods like she expected that, and still doesn't fully understand it. What Denise doesn't see, what almost nobody sees, is the logic sitting underneath the boredom. Every single asset in that folder solves a need that never goes away. People need cash in their pocket at a bar on a Friday night. People run out of space in their house and need somewhere to put the extra. Cars need to be washed, storefronts need to be washed, and drivers on a highway see whatever is on that billboard whether they want to or not. There is no app coming to disrupt a roll-up door. There is no competitor about to out-innovate a stretch of gravel off the highway. That is the entire point. There's a guy at the industry mixer tonight. You've seen his type before. Tyler is wearing sneakers he bought at midnight the day they released, and he leased a Cadillac Escalade this morning that he's already mentioned 3 separate times. He talks about his portfolio the way some people talk about their personality, loudly, angled toward whoever might be listening. He is performing wealth, carefully, at considerable monthly expense. You showed up in a used pickup truck with 130,000 miles on it and a dent in the tailgate you've been meaning to fix for close to a year. When Tyler asks what you do, you tell him you run a few small operations. Some cash machines, some storage units, nothing exciting. You watch him do the math in real time. The truck, the plain jacket, the storage units. He smiles politely and turns towards someone else. In his head, you've already been sorted. Comfortable, maybe. Not worth the full pitch. Good. That small, quiet dismissal is worth more to you tonight than anything else that will happen at that mixer. Because the moment someone underestimates you, they stop watching you. And the moment they stop watching you, you get to do exactly what you want. This isn't modesty. It's a strategy. And you wear it on purpose every single day. The truck isn't a statement, it's a tool. It starts every morning, it hauls whatever needs hauling, and it draws exactly 0 attention in any parking lot in the country. If any of this is starting to feel a little too familiar, a like tells the algorithm to put it in front of someone else who needs to hear it too. Your best friend since college is named Nate. He roasts coffee out of a small warehouse space, the kind of operation that gets written up in the local paper and has a line out the door on Saturday mornings. 3 months ago, he called you on a random Tuesday, and underneath the usual conversation, there was something else. He wanted to open a second location downtown, and the numbers made sense, but he needed $85,000 to make it happen. You could have sent that money before the call even ended. You could have sent it from your phone sitting in your truck outside a storage facility without feeling it, not even slightly. $85,000 against everything you currently hold is roughly 9 days of the accounting, running quietly in the background whether you notice it or not. It wasn't a sacrifice. It wasn't even really a decision, financially speaking. But you didn't send it. You sat there listening, and you felt the full weight of knowing exactly what you could do, and choosing not to do it. That feeling doesn't have a clean name. It isn't guilt exactly, and it isn't selfishness. It's the specific loneliness of understanding a situation more clearly than the person living inside it. Because here's what 11 years taught you the hard way. Money handed to someone who isn't structurally ready for it doesn't fix the problem. It accelerates whatever was already there. If the numbers underneath a business are loose, a check just buys someone a faster, more expensive version of the exact same lesson they were going to learn anyway. So instead of wiring the money, you asked Nate if you could come by on Saturday. You sat at his kitchen table with a notepad for 3 hours, going through every line of his numbers with him. You found 2 expenses quietly bleeding him every month. You asked about the lease terms on the new space, the personal guarantee. What happens if foot traffic comes in 30% under projection in month 6? He didn't have answers for half of it, not because he wasn't sharp, but because nobody had ever sat down and asked him those questions before. You went back the next Saturday, and the one after that. By the 4th Saturday, Nate had renegotiated 2 supplier contracts, found a small business loan program he actually qualified for, and restructured his whole timeline so he didn't need outside capital at all. He signed the lease 6 weeks later. He called you the night he got the keys, a little emotional in the way people get when something they worked for actually shows up. He said he couldn't have done it without you. You never told him what you could have written the check for. You probably never will, and that's not modesty either. It's an understanding of what his story needed to be, built by his decisions, owned entirely by him. If you want us to walk through a situation closer to yours in a future video, drop it in the comments, because chances are somebody else watching needs the same breakdown. There are rooms inside your life that nobody gets to walk into, and that part doesn't get easier with time. Not the secrecy itself, you made peace with that a long time ago. It's the specific weight of watching someone you love struggle through something you could remove in under a minute, and knowing that removing it would actually be the wrong thing to do. The email lands on a Thursday morning while you're sitting in the waiting room of an oil change shop, half a paper cup of bad coffee in one hand, thumbing through your phone with the other. The subject line reads, "Second quarter summary, final," from Denise. She sends these every quarter, thorough and completely unexciting, same plain font she's used for 2 decades. You usually read them on a weekend morning with real coffee. You almost close the notification, but something about the number in the preview line stops your thumb. You open it. You read the top line twice, slowly, the way you read something when you're not sure you read it correctly the first time. Your total verified net worth, across every property, every operating business, every liquid account, has crossed $412 million. You sit there under the fluorescent lights of an oil change shop. A technician somewhere behind the counter calls out a customer's name. A man 2 seats over is scrolling through tire prices on his phone. Nobody looks at you. Nobody knows. The oil change shop doesn't know. The technician doesn't know. The number exists on a screen in the hand of a person waiting on a routine service appointment, the same way it existed 11 years ago in a hallway behind a bar. 1 cash machine and $162 at a time. You thought this moment would feel different. You'd pictured some kind of shift in the air, a seam you could actually feel between before and after. There is no seam. There's just fluorescent light, a stranger's tire quote, and Denise's email sitting quietly on your screen, while a life that hasn't changed keeps right on running, exactly the way it did yesterday. You type back 3 words. Thanks. Looks right. Then you set the phone face down, because your truck is up next on the lift, and the coffee is somehow already gone. 11 years ago, you netted $162 from a used cash machine, and sat with that number on a Sunday night, not knowing what to call the feeling. It wasn't pride, and it wasn't disappointment, and it wasn't enough to tell anyone about. This is that same exact feeling, just with a lot more zeros stacked behind it, which means the feeling was never really about the number. It was always about the architecture, the proof that a system you built with your own hands still runs quietly, whether or not a single person is watching. Somewhere in this ordinary week, you're going to watch someone spend real money just to look like they already have it, and you'll notice, again, that the performance of wealth and the quiet position rarely ever belong to the same person at the same time. If videos like this are useful to how you think about money, subscribing means you don't miss the next one, and there's a new one waiting every week. The truck needs an oil change whether you're rich or not. You drive home the same way you came, same road, Same dent in the tailgate you still haven't fixed. And nothing about the outside of your life is any different tomorrow than it was yesterday. What's different is quieter than that. It's the part nobody sees, and the part you're never going to explain to anyone, including Tyler, including Nate, including the man 2 seats over, still comparing tire prices on his phone. So here's the only question worth sitting with tonight. Underneath whatever you're building right now, quietly, without applause, without anyone photographing it, what is it actually for, and who is it actually for?